The following is an interview with flooring solution expert Steve Sale of Churchill Flooring and Peter Roper.
Steve, let's talk about screed. We've had years of sand and cement screed used in building for probably 100 years or something, isn't it? Life has changed, would you say, with screed?
I think there's a lot of considerations to be made to screed, and sand and cement still has its place in the market. To create a fall in a wet room, let's say, predominantly you would aim for sand and cement. I think the advancements in sand and cement is that it can now be delivered pre-mixed, so there is some quality assurance on the product, whereas before you may have got one man and his son on site chucking it through a mixer, and no particular quality control on the product. There's many types of new screed on the market. Like everything, things evolve and move forward. Quality assurance on the made products, pre-bagged products, is very good. Most have done their homework on what the product's capable of. Pre-mixed products tend to come, and there's tests in place on site that can demonstrate that the quality's there for each product. And there's been many advancements with new products using waste products to try to save the environment. Most waste products produce less shrinkage than manufactured products. Therefore, you have an eco value to actually putting these products into the screed. Certainly with the liquid screeds, there's a percentage there of waste products. Also, speed of installation. If you imagine a team installing sand and cement, predominantly do 150 to 200 metres a day. With the liquid screed, they could do 1,500 square metres a day. So with today's rushed markets, and people wanting to go faster and quicker on new builds, it lends itself very nice to the liquid market, because it can actually keep up with the requirements.
Okay, so if we're designing a screed floor, what's the key things we need to consider?
With all these discussions that we have, the main consideration has to be what you're going to actually use the floor for. For instance, if you've got underfloor heating, what's going to distribute that heat quicker to the surface, because that's where you're reliant on the heat being distributed from. So what's going to get it there fastest. There's no point in the boiler working for half an hour before you see a result, for instance. You won't be able to turn it on and get a quick result. So there's many considerations. Reflective joints, cementitious screed needs joints in it. In most situations they'll be at 6 metre centres. That means that whatever joint you put in the screed needs to be in the finished surface. So then you've got a maintenance of that joint over time. Okay,
so obviously we got to think through sensible things when we're specifying. What's the most common errors that we find in screed?
The most common error is not to design the full depth of that floor makeup. I.e. somebody's already put a base in, nobody's really considered whether they're having underfloor, whether they're not having underfloor, nobody's considered what type of finishes, the compatibility between the different layers of floor. Different manufacturers use different chemicals and different cement types within their products. If there's a compatibility issue, it needs to be ironed out at design stage and not at construction stage. And I think that with the construction market with concrete, the engineers now accept that you need to know what the finish is and what the subbase is. I think that screed is still considered we can make it fit later, so we'll consider it later.
But the key difference, I suppose, particularly if you're using underfloor heating, of course, and as underfloor heating comes in more and more and more, it's not the case, is it? As we've said in previous recordings, you've got to understand that what you're doing with underfloor heating, and it's all about understanding the whole situation, isn't it? That's my experience from what we've been saying in these things.
Yeah, there's a mentality of many designers and many architects in the UK have for many years specified 75mm, and when anybody thinks of screed as a snapshot, it's normally 75mm thick sand and cement. to put underfloor heating in the floor, 75mm sand and cement's fine in most situations because it gives you the cover on the pipes that you need. Liquid screed needs the same coverage on top of the pipes, however it's a thinner section. So actually, if you consider it earlier, you actually save on your insulation costs and you save on your sub-base costs because you don't need as big a void, so therefore you don't have to strip out as much ground.
So talking to someone that understands the whole situation is the thing to really do, isn't it? At an early stage, that's what I guess what I'm gleaning from you in this interview.
Yes, you need to be discussing the project at foundation level rather than making something fit, and there's plenty of products out there that can be made to fit in thinner sections, higher U values for your insulation, but all of these come with a cost, and there's very little need for the cost in the first instance if it's designed and considered correctly.
So in a nutshell, bring it in at the design stage, not on site.
Bringing it in at the design stage, we'd also recommend, we've set our company out to actually be able to install all the elements of the floor slab, giving an overall solution which considers the overall use, the finishes, the compatibility, timescales needed to do each individual service to the floor, thus making it cost efficient to come to one installer and have him understand the whole sandwich. Make sure that there's no issues long term with the materials that have been used.
Steve, thank you.
Thanks for listening to that interview between Peter Roper and Steve Sale of Churchill Flooring. If you want to know more about Churchill, simply go on to www.churchillflooring.co.uk. That's churchillflooring.co.uk. This has been a Positive Ground production on behalf of Churchill Flooring, and if you want to know more about Positive Ground, simply click www.positiveground, that's all one word, .co.uk. Thanks for listening.